Hey everyone, it's your old pal TreyTheWilliam with another wacky video. I was initially planning on doing another game review, and it's still in the works, but right now I want to talk about the greatest thing I have ever seen in my 40 years on this godforsaken earth. It is a Thomas the Tank Engine creepypasta fan film called Shed 17, and oh my god, it is an absolute masterpiece. I knew I had to make this video right away for two reasons. One is that I don't want to just talk about video games. Obviously, that's the central point of the channel, but there are other things besides that. I want this channel to be more of a jack of all trades where I'm not just restricting myself to game reviews. The second reason is that this fan film is just fantastic. If you haven't watched it yet for some reason, I would recommend you go do so right now and come back to the review. This is your last warning before you either dismiss it, watch the movie, or if you've already seen it. Welcome back. Now we are ready to discuss this absolute masterpiece. I need another word besides masterpiece. Hang on, I'm going on thesaurus.com. Masterwork, model, flower, cream. Okay, it's time we finally dissect this absolute cream. Yeah, that sounds right. Wait, hang on. The video is buffering. Wait. No, it isn't. Oh, it's oh. So, the movie starts out with a revised version of the intro of the classic TV show, showing the past and now the despairful present, as an ominous piano rendition plays in the back. Honestly, it's a pretty neat intro. So then we get an introduction to the Railway series, showing that the book and television series are indeed canonical to this universe, which is an important detail. It clues us into the dark truth of Thomas and his pals, then the title card does its thing. After that, we get an introduction to Sodor Island, which apparently was a detention camp for Germans. I'm not kidding at all, that's literally what the movie says. One of them, Wilhelm Gotzi? I don't know how to pronounce it. One of them, Wilhelm, was an advisor for the Nazi Party. I'm not even kidding. There are Thomas people who are Nazis in this movie. We're not even 3 minutes into the movie and we're already getting into Hitler Alright. Then him and his family fled the country to Sodor Island, where he could do some experiments and stuff. His experiments were basically cracking human DNA and modifying that. Yes, his son, Hans, left to the mainland so he can study biology as well, and he invented something called biofusion, which is basically where DNA is modified with mechanical implants. It should be obvious where this is going. Ooh, look on the paper! It talks about reproduction! Hans eventually came back from Germany because people were concerned about the proposals he was making, so he needed Sodor Island for financial backing, and this is where he would set up his research lab. Eventually, he marries a woman named Abby Collins, and they eventually have a baby named Thomas. Are you for real? What is this thing? What is that? Okay, obviously his face is supposed to replicate that of the train, but was this some sort of failed biofusion experiment? I mean, where did that face come from? Anyway, Thomas was born in 1968, where he would grow up to... Wait a minute. The first Railway series book was released in 1945, and we've established that that's a real thing in the movie. So, was the writer of the book a psychic or something? To tell the future? I get that this is supposed to be a post-World War II movie, but at that point you might as well treat the universe like the books or show don't exist. Nitpicking aside, Thomas loved watching all the old trains just doing their thing. He was on the platforms every single day filming them with his camera. Him and his father both had a fondness for the steam engines in particular, and so he kept them running on the railways. Anyway, besides the story, the art style in this movie is just extremely inconsistent. Sometimes we get footage from the actual TV show, then these really bad-looking 3D sections, and sometimes there are images being used instead of the actual models, which is really jarring in some scenes. There are parts of this movie that actually look pretty good, while others, not so much. But there is some creativity with how these scenes are presented, like how using this pseudo 3D movement to convey a first-person walking effect in this scene. I really like that, actually. Besides, the bad 3D is what gives this movie its charm. Continuing with the story, the railways are getting bigger and bigger, so they appointed a new controller, and this is the best introduction scene in the whole movie.
And appointed a new controller.
Oi! Get off my f***ing platform!
Anyway, people hate Sir Topham Hatt, who is commonly referred to as
fat bastard.
And people hated him for his poor business decisions for his own benefit rather than the train networks. Eventually, though, there was a bright turn for the railways using biofusion, but only after a tragic event.
Come on!
It's always held up.
Thomas got ran over by a train and his arm falls off. Hans is mortified in his son's death, so he locks himself up in his lab where no one can check on him. Nobody knew about Thomas's future, or lack thereof in this case, considering he was, dead. A year after the incident happened, and this happens.
And in an open invitation to the people of the island, Thomas rolled out of Shed 17.
Thomas has been biofused with a steam engine, and this was very controversial for the island. And then there's this gag where this guy can't stop vomiting on interviews due to the thought of the biofused child.
Engine.
Hans kept getting requests from celebrities, billionaires, and the terminally ill wishing to be biofused into an engine. And while Hans did not want to do any of this, Sir Topham Hatt was interested. So he changed the policies and ethics of the company, which allowed people to sign up to become biofused trains, aka signing your life away for the sake of science. And, well, this led to some accidents.
Thank you very much.
And you see how Edward bleeds in this one scene? This is important for a future plot hole. Then the first biofused diesel engine, Mavis, was conceived. Then she died because it burned her organs. And some of these deaths are really where the editing shines. So then fueled engines are banned from further experimentation. Then the trains are shown off to tourists, and this is when Percy dies. And why Percy, man? Why Percy?
I just wanted a piece of Percy's ass, you feel me?
People start asking why this doesn't happen to Thomas, and why he was built different. God, that hurts. Why did I write that in this? Then Sodor Research starts selling the technology biofusion to outside countries who didn't know about the covered-up accidents. Hans started worrying about the potential slavery of engines, so then he resigned. Yet his father, well, he offed himself. This scene confused me when I first saw it because of him bleeding sawdust instead of blood. At first I thought it was because he experimented biofusion on himself, but then I realized the people in Thomas the Tank Engine are made of wood. So how do blood and organs exist? Are there two types of people? I mean, why is Hitler made out of wood? Anyway, a very public accident occurs, and Gordon was not too lucky. And this scene is extremely gruesome, and it did ruin my childhood. For about 15 minutes. And then I got over it due to me being able to distinguish fan films from the real ones. Sir Topham Hatt just let the poor engine die instead of dousing the fire when requested by Gordon. Then Harold, a biofused helicopter who was unable to fly due to safety reasons, decided to fly.
You know, I just wanted a piece of that helicopter's ass.
His rotor blades spinning made his organs tear apart due to them being connected. So then, news reports start coming up as the cover-ups were starting to show. Then, Henry the Train saw what was inside Shed 17, and he saw it all. Henry files a complaint to Sir Topham Hatt. So then, Sir Topham Hatt sent Henry on a high-altitude mission to deliver fish to the mainland. So, basically, he sent Henry on this journey as a death sentence, but a well-covered-up one at that. Henry hits one train, setting a huge explosion, but somehow he survived the explosion. In fact, other people died instead of Henry. So they take Henry to a place called Crew, which is a scrap metal yard where he is to be recycled. But yeah, he dies. So, Thomas realizes that Henry was disposed of, so he heads over to Shed 17. So he goes inside the shed where he sees previous attempts of his construction. Evidence of Thomas's recreations via using DNA were shown. These were all failed experiments to create the tank engine we know and love as Thomas. Basically, the human Thomas's DNA was being recreated into these biofusion experiments, and at that point, why are you making him a big-ass train instead of a little child again? As the tank engine Thomas approaches the end of the shed, he is met with a green septic tank, and he comes to realize that he isn't the original Thomas. He sees the original Thomas. Apparently this freaks him out to the point where this happens. Oh hey, that's the screen from Slendytubbies. So then, Sir Topham Hatt leaves without a trace. Thomas is left in a specialist unit where reconstruction operations are given, and biofusion is banned everywhere. Except China.
批水果同蔬菜抵達碼頭嘅，我要你將食物送去納福站，繼續做你自己日常嘅工作啦。
So, that was Shed 17, and it was one hell of an experience. It was weird, dark, twisted, funny both intentionally and probably unintentionally, but it was honestly very fun to watch. I was a big fan of the Thomas the Tank Engine TV series and toys as a young kid, so watching this again was weird when I looked at it through the perspective of, hey, this is childhood. And like I said earlier, did it ruin my childhood? Yeah. For 15 minutes, because this is a completely separate thing from the normal show, obviously, and I can appreciate both for what they are. It got me thinking a lot about the original Thomas the Tank Engine, reminiscing all those times before I was a mess of a human I am nowadays. My favorite was always the one movie with Peter Fonda and Alec Baldwin snorting some gold dust and going on an adventure with Thomas or whatever. I don't know, there's a movie. It had my boy Diesel 10, alright, but Diesel 10's the boy. I looked at Shed 17 originally as more of a joke, but after watching it again and dissecting the film even more, I picked up on stuff that was previously dismissed, and I can say it's a pretty good fan film for what it is, albeit with some plot holes. So, good job, Paul's Vids. You ought to be proud of yourself. So, what's next for Shed 17? Well, nearly 3 years later, a sequel to Shed 17 was released called Project G1. Asking me if I'm gonna watch it is like if you asked Nintendo for a new main series Mario game. Of course it's gonna happen. Will I be making a video on it? Of course I will be, but I'll save that for a later date. All I can say is I hope that my homie Diesel 10 is in that movie. As of now, I have some videos planned out that I hope to be getting to soon on a certain video game character. So, see you guys then. I hope you all enjoyed this grand odyssey into one of the strangest fan films I've ever seen.
If you are a boy and you see a pretty girl, let it go ding ding. If you are a girl and you see a pretty boy, let it go ding ding. If you are a girl and you see a pretty girl, let it go ding ding. If you want love, 5 fingers in a glove, hold hands, ding 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 ding.